Welcome to Violin Adventures number 263. We have a short week this week, but we get some work done. Hope you enjoy. That is playing it just right after we've got it set up, and it's been sitting without being played for a long time, and of course with the seams open and the bottom open it hasn't been able to vibrate with sound. So I think it has a very pleasant sound, and we'll see. I'm going to play it another day or two and just see if we can help it wake up. So here we are, our late 1800s violin. And we need to get the bow rehaired, and this will be ready to go. Okay, here's the violin. It's had a day and a half to get used to the vibrations, so let's hear it again. So it has a very mellow but beautiful tone. It's not quiet, but it's the kind of tone that you want to keep playing. With silvery tones on the top. So this is a beautiful sounding violin. Little work on the new violin. Well, you can hear how loud this top is. It is really talking. Very responsive. So I'm going to go around the edges one more time, and then we're ready to close it up. I've got the label inside here, and it's signed and ready to be closed. Time for a story. All right, we're reading about Nicolo Paganini, and I'm starting off here on page 27. The earlier pages are some history of the violin and Paganini's writings, and so we'll go back to those after we hear some about Paganini. So here we are. Nicolo Paganini, the most extraordinary, the most renowned violinist of the 19th century, was born on February the 18th, 1784. His father, Antonio Paganini, a commercial banker, or simply a broker's clerk, according to some biographers, was passionately fond of music and played upon the mandolin. His penetration soon discovered the aptitude of his son for this art. He resolved that study should develop it. His excessive severity would have probably led to results contrary to those he expected, had not the younger Paganini been endowed with the firm determination of becoming an artist. From the age of 6 years, he was a musician and played the violin. The lessons he received from his father, as may be presumed, were not given in the most gentle manner. The ill treatment to which he was subjected during this period of his youth appears to have exercised a fatal influence upon his nerves and delicate constitution. From his first attempts, he was imbued with the disposition to execute feats of strength and agility upon his instrument. His instinct urged him to attempt the most extraordinary things, his precocious skill exciting the astonishment of his young friends. His confidence in the future was not to be shaken from the fact of his mother saying to him one day, "My son, you will be a great musician. I asked that you should become the greatest of all violinists, and the angel promised the fulfillment of my desire." His father's lessons soon became useless, and Servetto, a musician of the theater at Genoa, became his teacher, but even he was not possessed of sufficient ability to be of benefit to this predestined artist. Paganini received his instructions for a short period only, and he was placed under Giacomo Costa, director of music and principal violinist to the churches of Genoa, under whose care he progressed rapidly. He had now attained his 8th year, when he wrote his first sonata, which he unfortunately took no care of and has been lost among many other of his productions. His countryman, Necco, a distinguished composer, encouraged the visits of the boy and tendered counsel which doubtless aided him materially in his progress. Costa only gave him lessons for 6 months, during which period he obliged his pupil to play in the churches. But the master's instructions were not at all satisfactory to the pupil, who had already conceived a method of fingering and bowing. Having reached the 9th year, the young virtuoso appeared in public for the first time, in a concert at the large theater of his native town, given by the excellent soprano Marchesi with the vocalist Albertinati. These two artists sang subsequently at a concert for Paganini's benefit, and in both these instances this extraordinary child played variations of his own composition on the French air amid the frenzied acclamations of an enthusiastic audience. About this period of his life, the father was advised by judicious friends to place the boy under good masters of the violin and composition, and he shortly after took him to Parma, where Alessandro Roller then resided, so celebrated for his performance as conductor of the orchestra and as a composer. Paganini was now 12 years of age. The following anecdote, related by M. Schottky, and which Paganini published in a Vienna journal, furnishes interesting details on the master's first interview with the young artist. Quote, "On arriving at Rolla's house," he said, "we found him ill and in bed. His wife conducted us into a room adjoining the one where the sick man lay in order to concert with her husband, who, it appeared, was not at all disposed to receive us. Perceiving upon the table of the chamber into which we were ushered a violin and the last concerto of Rolla, I took up the violin and played the piece at first sight. Surprised at what he heard, the composer inquired the name of the virtuoso he had just heard. When he heard it was only a mere lad, he would not give credence to the fact unless by ocular demonstration. Thus satisfied, he told me that he could teach me nothing and recommended me to take lessons in composition from Pierre. That's the end of the quote. The evident desire evinced by Paganini to refute the supposition of his having received lessons from Rolla is a singularity difficult to account for. Gervasoni, who knew him at Parma at this period, affirms that he was the pupil of Rolla for several months. However, it was not Pierre, then in Germany, who taught Paganini harmony and counterpoint, but Goretti, who had directed the studies of Pierre himself. During 6 months, this precocious artist received 3 lessons weekly and specially applied himself to the study of instrumentation. Even now, Paganini was occupied in discovering new effects on his instrument. And we'll stop there and continue reading next time. Freddie wants to chat.
Hi, I'm Freddie, and my friend, Mr. Lloyd Pond, he sent me 2 pictures, and so here they are.
Mr. Pond tells us that they enjoy the foxes that come around in the evening. This one is looking for water, and sometimes they eat the wild plums.
Thank you, Mr. Pond, for sending me those pictures. That was great. Well, don't forget to send me your pictures, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
The Hebrew Minute. Enei Hashem el Zadikim va'aznaiv el Shivatam. The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are open to their cry, and this is a cry for help. If you know where this is found, please leave it in the comments below. Well, this is the first week in January. It is dry but cold. Let's go inside. Here we are in the shop. This is our new violin. It's finally gotten closed up. The next thing will be working the purfling and also drilling holes in the scroll. And over here is our old violin that is ready to go home. And over here, a nice pile of work to be done. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your great comments, for your thumbs up, and thank you to the new subscribers. And until next time, bye.